strong, physical offensive line. Some of those guys we've played against a little bit. Defensively, James is a really good player. They move him around a lot. He's athletic. He can put his hand down. He can play back or he can rush the passer. Both the safeties, Matthews and Pierre Lewis, are long, rangy, good tacklers in space. I think I saw the Fair kid, just knowing a little bit about him, Oklahoma kid. His background, played inside a lot Saturday night with one of the injuries. I don't know how many snaps he played, but he played a lot. He was a load inside the Big Three technique. So it's a team that we know a decent amount about personnel-wise. I got a lot of respect for them. The games that we've played against them in 4 straight years have gone down to the wire. And so Mike Bobo, I've known Mike for a while. I have a lot of respect for him as well. I've known him since I was at Louisville as an assistant, and some of the things that he did at Georgia, I think, as an offensive coordinator, speak well. They've done a nice job on offense, really picking up. You don't see a whole lot of changes really in what they've been doing from the last staff to this staff offensively. I think Coach Bobo's doing a good job of playing to their strengths, which is those guys that I just mentioned, the tailbacks, the 2 receivers. Really, they got 3 receivers. I like 25 too, and then Kevon, the tight end. So be a tough challenge. Excited to be at home again. It seems like it's been forever. Shoot, it's been a month. The whiteout homecoming should have a great crowd, and it should be a great atmosphere. And our guys will, I think we're refreshed mentally and physically coming off the bye, and I look for our guys to be really energetic and have a lot of juice and be ready to go. So.
All conference openers are important, but 2 teams projected to be there at the end. Does that make it any more special, significant, pressure, whatever you want to say?
No, because we want to get off to the right start. Want to know whether it doesn't matter who the conference is. Maybe puts a little bit more of an emphasis because it's a divisional game. But our guys, they know what time it is now, and getting into league play, all the league games count. This maybe counts a shade more because it's head to head in your division, but our guys will be excited to play.
What are your thoughts on the league in general? I know you don't see a lot, but you see the scores and you see, is it down? Is it finding its way? Is it playing pretty good schedules? How would you characterize the Mountain West this year?
Well, I think the analogies or the examples that you just gave are good, because I think most of the Mountain West have played really good schedules, which means tough schedules. Which means opponents, how are those opponents faring as well? And I think most of us have played those teams. And I think you see it as a league. It's hard to comment a little bit until you really start playing each other. But you see, one thing you see is some quarterbacks being down, in the league. So especially our division. So that's another thing that you kind of sit back and look at. And I got to see these guys play Saturday Night Live, and I was flipping back and forth watching Fresno and San Jose, and so you're seeing a little bit. We don't play San Jose, but we play Fresno. But you see some of that with quarterback situations, and maybe that's a little bit of a theme this year.
Is there a thought that on offense, of course you get Chuck, you guys get experience and everything, but you have only had 3 offensive touchdowns in 4 games. Is there a thought that Kent might come in and get a little juice going in?
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so.
I guess the better question would be, how would he do that? How can he do that?
Well, I think first of all, we got to play better around him. Having maybe your full complement of players now. It's first of all, that's going to help a quarterback. You getting some guys back and playing better around him, running the football. Got to find ways to run football, and I think that helps the quarterback out, and hopefully, we're able to move the ball. But the key, really from the last 2 weeks has been scoring touchdowns in the red zone. That's got to be, it doesn't matter who's playing quarterback. You got to get in the red zone. And some of the games that I saw this weekend, just flipping around, Saturday night, the teams that had red zone issues, they end up getting beat. And I'm not, you you got examples. I'm not going to talk about those examples, but I mean, I sit there and watch teams get beat, and you look at the red zone production, and they're getting in the red zone 4 times, coming out with a touchdown or 2, or maybe a field goal and a turnover, and that's what we did against Utah and Washington, and it does not lead to success.
Can I kind of expounding on what Steve's asking you? Is there something in your mind that you think Kent Myers can maybe be a little bit better at something in the offensive dynamic that Chucky wasn't or couldn't be?
It's hard because you're comparing him to Chucky, and that's what you're asking me to do. And I think the things that Kent Myers brings to the table is some athleticism. I think he brings confidence based on his play last year and how he feels about himself and how our players feel about him. Our players are very, very confident in him, I can tell you that. I think he brings athleticism and, some of the things, I think he throws the ball well. Whether it's down the field, in the pocket, or on the move, I think he's improved a little bit over last year. Time will tell. Game time will tell. But I like where he's at, and I think our guys are very confident with him.
Let me ask you, you talked about the evaluation of the team after the Washington game. Without, obviously you probably identified some areas you want to change in, but how was that experience? Did you really look at some things tough and say, wow, we just not going to do that anymore? I mean, without throwing us all the bones or whatever.
I'm not going to throw you one bone. So, I think that's what we did, and that's what we have to do, and then you have to listen to your findings. We, from a self-scout standpoint, in all 3 phases, we've been good at this. We're going to continue to do it. And, maybe stuff that we haven't been, we either need to throw out or improve on. But again, it's about taking what you do and improving on it, and then it's about taking the stuff that you're struggling at and either doing it a different way, improving on it, or completely throwing it out, and then adding some stuff in that you're good at or your players are good at, and then you're trying to mix it with going against the Rams. And so some of the stuff that we want to start doing maybe isn't right for this week just because of schematics. But, there's no question we're going to do that, and we're already doing it.
You talked about running the ball. In general, how do you run the ball better than you have in the first couple of weeks?
Well, that's what we're trying to figure out, and that's the $1 million question. I think a little bit of schematics and what we're doing, and coaches, calling things that our kids are better at doing, and players communicating and playing a little bit better. I think there's a mix of both, Steve, and I think we've addressed that, and we'll look out Saturday night and see how well we move the football.
Obviously Higgins has got all the tools. It looks like they're talking about him being an NFL first-round guy, a receiver, and all that kind of stuff. But here's a guy who ended up at Colorado State and didn't go to a big school out of Texas. Was he not highly recruited? I mean, you knew a little bit about Texas recruits, and that were big-time schools looking at him, or?
Yeah, well, I think it's a nice job of them by evaluating him, and a nice job by the kid. I think over time the kid has improved himself. The kid's made himself a player. And he's done a nice job. He was an athletic kid coming out of, outside of Dallas, suburb outside of Dallas. And, we've got kids on our team too. Chucky Keaton wasn't highly recruited. Kent Myers wasn't highly recruited. We've got a handful of our guys, that are in some similar boats. And I think that, that staff that had evaluated him did a nice job evaluating. But I think let's give the kids, make sure you give Higgins credit too. The kid's made himself into a really good player.
And he makes the tough catch, or he makes the key catch.
I think he makes the key catch. I think he makes the acrobatic catch. I think he makes the impossible catch. And, a year ago I thought we had guys draped all over him, and he's making catches. So he's got a lot of our respect. He's got our players' respect. He's got our attention. We know all about him. He's a good player.
With a coaching change and turnover from last year, is there anything you can take away from a game like last year where it was so close? And if so, what do you take away from a game like that?
Well, there's there are some similarities structure-wise a little bit on them, for them, both sides of the ball. It's not exactly the same. Obviously, there's 2 new coordinators on both sides of the ball also. But I think you look at players and you look at programs. There's a lot of those kids back. There's a lot of our kids back that have been in, down to the wire games. They won it, at the very end and made a play on the play action to get it down into field goal range. And then, the kicker, who's not back, froze him a couple times and then he drilled the thing. It was a great kick by that kid. The year before we won 10-0. And so we've got players that have played in both those games, and so do they. So I think, you expect another hard-fought battle, and we'll see how this one goes.
I mean, you've had a hard time moving the ball on them the last 2 years. It's been a tough deal moving on their Colorado State defense with a lot of those same guys.
It's been good defense played on both sides of the ball the last 2 years. Yeah.
Is there one key matchup that you look at for Saturday, or?
You think matchup-wise, I think, in my opinion, a lot of the game's going to be decided in the front 7, both sides of the ball. Are they able to run the ball on our defense, and can we run the ball on them? They've got a really good receivers. I think we've got good receivers. Those are matchups, out there, and you kind of get into a little bit of one-on-one battles out there. But I truly think the matchup in the interior guys, front 7, both sides of the ball, would be a very key matchup. You got what you needed? How about y'all? Anything else?
You all okay?